Hello, Detective Banks. I'm here to help reform the Metro Police, to remind them of their oath to the people of this city. One officer from your station refused to be reformed. He will not be the last to play my game.
If that spiral is what I think it is,
Jigsaw?
Wait, I thought the Jigsaw Killer was dead.
Yeah, but if it's another copycat.
it's gonna be a shit show.
Alright everybody, I am Kevin from The Real Movie Guys, and you are watching The Real Review, a series where we review and discuss all your favorite movies. And don't forget, if you like what you see and you want to see more, be sure to subscribe to the channel today. On today's episode, we're going to be taking a look at Spiral from the Book of Saw. Working in the shadow of his father, an esteemed police veteran, brash Detective Ezekiel, Zeke Banks, and his rookie partner take charge of a grisly investigation into murders that are eerily reminiscent of the city's gruesome past. Unwittingly entrapped in a deepening mystery, Zeke finds himself at the center of the killer's morbid game. How long can a franchise go on for? That's a question that some long-lasting franchises should have to ask themselves. Say what you want about the first 7 Saw films for what they were, I always admired what they really committed to the insane continuity in their story and focused on what mattered, the gory traps. It was clear by the nonsensical mess known as Jigsaw, however, that the series needed to refresh. So that brings us Spiral, marking the 9th entry in the Saw franchise. Spiral sets out to tell a disturbing and twisted mystery story within the Saw universe, but minus the concept of the initial idea and a few good moments and traps, Spiral ends up being nothing more than a gory mess. Let's acknowledge the elephant in the room. Chris Rock is in a Saw movie, and he is terrible. It's a shame too. Chris Rock was one of the driving forces behind this revival of the franchise, actually pitching the idea to Lionsgate, resulting in an acting, writing, and producing credit. All these factors raise a whole lot of questions, as since he had so much influence on the film, why didn't he tailor the role more to his strengths? I think maybe he wanted to divert away from the typical Rock performance we are used to, maximum laughs and energy. In this film, he plays Detective Zeke Banks, and he always seems like he just got a whiff of a really smelly fart. I get he's trying for this really disconnected line delivery, but it just comes across as more of a parody performance than anything else. It doesn't help that the dialogue is all bland and poorly written. Even if Rock was more tailored to the role, I don't think it would have helped. Everyone else, as far as acting, is pretty much just as bland and to a degree serviceable. I would be remiss if I didn't mention Samuel L. Jackson, who plays Marcus Banks. I wouldn't say he did anything out of the ordinary as far as a typical performance from him, but when he and Chris Rock were on screen together, you could tell they had some kind of chemistry going on, almost like Rock was trying to elevate to Jackson's level. For a good mystery to work, you have to be able to take your audience on a journey that will leave them guessing up until the very end. If we're being honest here, most viewers will be able to figure out what's going on within the first 20 minutes. I have a few scenes, especially one in particular, that essentially telegraphs who the new masked killer is, removing any and all suspense on the reveal. Once the mystery element was eliminated, I was left wondering what else was left for me that was new in this film, because once the illusion was shattered, it just felt like the typical Saw film. The horrendous signature 2000s fast and jarring editing was still present, the dull lighting and the way the traps unfolded all still here. From what I could tell, the movie was trying to imitate David Fincher's Seven in many ways, especially in regards to how the events unfolded. The only problem is, Seven knows how to let the events breathe and leave an impact, while Spiral is already on to the next. This becomes more evident during the finale of the film. While the details and reveals are interesting, I couldn't help but feel like it was incredibly rushed, almost to the point where the movie just wanted to get it over with. Imitation can be used as a model to sculpt something new, but ultimately, in this instance, every reminder of Seven wanted me to pop that movie in over this. This may seem like a controversial take to some hardcore fans, but I think this movie makes the right choice in moving away from the John Kramer's Jigsaw character. He has become almost a parody at this point, and someone following in his footsteps would overall make sense in this universe. The problem arises when the story is unable to present the audience with a compelling new villain. The pig mask character that appears throughout the film in the trap videos is a severe downgrade from actor Tobin Bell, who played Jigsaw in the previous entries. Bell's voice was always so intimidating. As soon as you heard the famous line,
I want to play a game.
a shiver would run down your spine and you knew the gore would commence. Behind the scene, this was a known problem as well. Director Darren Lynn Bosman was apparently on the edge of whether or not they should go with Tobin's iconic voice or to create something new. Ultimately, the computer-simulated final voice was selected 2 days prior to the finalization of the sound mix, and it shows. I understand the theming behind the whole pig look, since this new killer is targeting police officers, and the voice change seems a little more modern and realistic.
Hello, Detective Banks. I want to play a game.
but they both just don't work since they never feel threatening. I think maybe a revamp of the Jigsaw puppet, even using a new voice laced slightly with his, would have been incredibly creepy. Now we have to approach the most important part of any Saw movie, the traps. And it is here I will say this movie did a decent job. Many people consider the Saw franchise to be something of a torture porn series, but I disagree with that. These films are meant to be more psychological terror than anything else, and I think they do add something more than just gruesome entertainment. As much as most would refuse to admit it, people like to be uncomfortable, and we want to see people overcome gruesome adversity. Spiral brings the traps back to basics, treading more on the ground of the earlier iterations of the series where every scenario was more realistic and less over the top. While I won't go into any details about the traps since I would consider that to be pretty spoilery, part of the fun is waiting to see what horrible game is next. I do think the traps were decent, but overall did lack that little bit of impact ones from the previous film had. Yes, they do work for the context of the film, but when it comes to memorable, I can say most of them are already forgotten and just blend together. Spiral claims to be a back-to-basics sequel for the Saw franchise. While it does at times touch on this claim, the reality is this film is just a more of the same sequel with huge star power due to Chris Rock and Samuel L. Jackson's involvement. I think this is the direction for the future of the franchise to go in. The formula is tweaked just enough to make it where I do want to see where it goes. Maybe if this series can find the happy medium between past and future with a tighter script, the next installment might be able to capture that brutal magic the series started with. While I won't say this is the worst in the franchise, there's a very special place in hell reserved for 2017's Jigsaw. Spiral barely escapes the trap of being a failure, but not without damaging any of the goodwill of a fan of the franchise might have, which leads me to my final score. I'm going to give Spiral, from the Book of Saw, a D.
You wanna play games, motherfucker? Alright, I'll play.
Star power and franchise fame are not enough to make a film work. Spiral is just another example in a long line of other franchises suffering similar fates. I do hope that the writers and director can reflect on the mistakes made here, and the next time they ask me if I want to play a game, it'll be a game worth playing. If you guys like what you've seen here today, consider giving this video a like and leaving your thoughts in the comments below. If you want to stay up to date with everything Real Movie Guys related, make sure to hit that subscribe button and check us out on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And don't forget, all you audio listeners at home, we are available on many podcasting platforms. Just search The Real Movie Guys, you should pop right up. Thank you again all so much for joining us on this episode of The Real Review. We are The Real Movie Guys. Real guys, real movies, real thoughts. Catch you next time.